tech giants, including Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, sharing their plans for AI. The chiefs met with U.S. lawmakers behind closed doors as Congress is deciding on how to regulate a technology that some worry could destroy humanity. Europe is developing its own rules for AI, and the U.S. Is under pressure to do the same. Owen Fairclough has more.
They're some of Silicon Valley's biggest names, but getting them into the same room is rare. And yet they're doing just that this Wednesday, assembled on Capitol Hill to effectively teach lawmakers about artificial intelligence. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Sundar Pichai, who runs Google's parent company Alphabet, and perhaps most importantly of all, the founder of ChatGPT, all attending the Senate's inaugural AI Insight Forum. And it's arguably ChatGPT that allows conversations between humans and computers that has demonstrated to the wider public, as well as lawmakers, the limitless possibilities and threats posed by AI. So this bipartisan forum is a way to try and work out how to regulate AI, though neither the general public nor the media have been allowed to attend. But relations between lawmakers and tech have often been checkered. Consider the grilling Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg received from Congress about how Facebook, as it was then known, became a vehicle for misinformation. And just a few blocks from Congress, Google is battling the Justice Department in court over allegations it spent years abusing its dominance of the search engine market. But lawmakers nevertheless need to consider how to regulate this revolutionary technology that has profound implications for just about every facet of daily life, as well as national security. But perhaps the ultimate test for some of these tech titans who've often pushed back on Congress's attempts to regulate them is how much regulation they're willing to accept. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
To help us understand all this, Joe Toscano, founder and CEO of DataGrade. It is a risk analysis firm. Good to see you and welcome back. You know, we've heard game-changing, revolutionary. I mean, you can use whatever adjective you want. I'm having a hard time understanding what are we worried about when it comes to AI, and why AI? Why not any other technology?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me again, and great question. I think that in the beginning stages of this, it's confusing to people who are just now hearing about this because AI could be anything and everything. The reality of it is that, yes, there are things that can harm us, such as bias in the algorithms or bias in the data, and that definitely affects minority communities and highly discriminated populations. But there's also things like you could put some of this AI and machine learning into drones and bombs and things that could end up really harming larger swaths of society in ways that we traditionally would not unleash a tool like that, just totally unmanned vehicles. AI is being used for many, many different purposes, and how it takes form is up to the creator of the system. And that's, I think, what's really being discussed is what are the boundaries? How do we set them?
So I saw Elon, you know, today. He along with the other chiefs were, you know, speaking to Congress, and when he walked out, he made a comment to the media that said that everybody in the room, meaning the other CEOs, all agreed that they wanted regulation, which is a rarity. Like, rarely do you hear agreements on that. But I thought to myself, well, what exactly is Congress regulating? Is it the creation of AI? Is it after it's been created we're gonna regulate it? Because there's some really smart people in that room, and I'm not saying people in Congress aren't smart, but this is a whole nother level of understanding that you need if you're going to regulate or supervise this technology.
Oh, agreed, 100%. And I think that the generation that we have in office is not fully prepared for this right now, which is also an interesting perspective to consider. But yes, post-forum, Elon was quoted saying that, hey, look, we all want this, but the point of discovery was just that. It was an investigation into insights that they can use to guide the regulations. Nobody quite yet knows exactly what needs to be set in stone, and today was just the founding information and discovery that will then shape drafts of policies and larger committee conversations to come.
So the EU has already put together their plan. China is working on their plan. I mean, different parts of the world are doing it. Would it be, I mean, this is a silly question, but would it be helpful if this is a global phenomenon that they all work together, or are we all just going to regulate and do our own thing?
Well, look, some of these other economies, they've started already, and in part, maybe they're looking ahead to the future faster than we are, but also there's part of it to which these tools, a lot of the biggest ones, the biggest platforms are created here in the United States, and we don't want to overregulate the industry. But then the flip side of that is, yes, it could be very dangerous, and probably we will see global treaties put together just as we saw with nuclear arms. It is that important. This is that big of a change to the industry worldwide, and it's something that we need to all be involved in and keep watching as it comes to fruition.
Well, I mean, that leads me to my other point, is that technology, and I think you would agree, has basically been the driver of the U.S. economy, if not the global economy, for the past 15 or 20 years. And just take the S&P, for example. I think like almost a third of the entire stock market is somehow related to other communications or creating or innovating related to technology. The White House, we have secretaries of different, folks from agriculture to the military. Shouldn't there be like a chief technology person, a secretary of technology in the United States?
I think there should be, and I think a lot of people are starting to lean into that. In Europe, they have put into their GDPR, their General Data Protection Regulation, that there needs to be independent supervisory authorities. California has a data protection authority that they just put into place recently, and other experts in the field are now pushing for that. We also have a National AI Council that's not really spoken about a lot, but we do in the United States. That's not really a formal regulatory body, but I do think that it's a very logical next step that we start to see something like that put together.
AI has been in development for some time. You can even argue, Google's search engine was sort of the initial part of the AI, but even in the past few years, we've made such great strides that I've lost track of some of the innovations that have been accomplished. And I feel like we're behind on this, right? We have to move faster, but we're talking about Congress here. So what is going to be a realistic time frame to even see some notepads and some notes about what regulation might look like?
Well, I think for those of us who have been pushing on this edge for, in my case, more than half a decade, and others more than that, sooner the better, right? But the reality is, yeah, you're right, it's Congress. It could take a long time. I think regardless of how long it takes, what they need to consider is different levels of risk. Some things are riskier than others, so they should be classified and controlled differently. They need to think about disclosure, similar to how we have to report our taxes. I think that companies need to be reporting what data they're collecting, how it's used, where it's going, things like that. And the reason why we need to start with reporting standards is because, like you had mentioned, a lot of these government officials don't know what they're looking at. So
Joe,
right now, they're trying to make it blind decisions.
Joe, for people like me and our producers and the folks, working here in the newsroom, we're just regular people. We're not tech experts. Why should we be worried about what AI can do? I mean, give me the worst case scenario of why we should be worried about this.
Sure. Well, everything from, is your kid going to get admitted to college because an algorithm's making a decision based on some documentation that they filled out, which is pretty low level but can be very impactful, to things like I had mentioned before, AI that's getting attached to weaponry that's just let go into the wild, or AI that is ultimately going in and hacking into national infrastructure and shutting down grids. That's definitely things that's possible in the future and is currently happening at smaller scales right now. So we want to prevent those mass catastrophes, but we also want to prevent the things that everybody listening today is going to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I hope they hurry up and figure this out and get this regulated, and what you just said never comes true. Joe, good to see you. Thanks for explaining this to us.